What is up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Travis. Of course, you are watching TWA Motorsports, and today we're gonna attempt to get this thing on the road. Guys, it's been a journey trying to get everything kind of lined out ever since I bought it. You know, remember I said I wanted a turnkey car, and well, we did not buy a turnkey car. So today, guys, we've been messing with the brakes. We've got them pretty much mounted where they need to be. Here's the issues that we're going to try to get accomplished in this video. I don't want to I can't in good faith put this back together without painting those calipers. It would make me crazy. So we're going to be painting the calipers today. So I'm going to get those off there. We're going to get the brake lines hooked up after those get dried. We're also going to get the rear end full of differential fluid, because obviously we had to take all that apart to get the axles out to try to make this all work. And then we're going to see what I have came up with for tires. I've got an idea. We're just gonna have to see later in the video when this thing is ready to put wheels and tires on and get going down the road. But I don't know if I showed you guys this. I feel like maybe I did. I have paint corrected an area of this car just out of curiosity. So guys, this car, obviously it's really dusty and dirty, but there's a bunch of micro scratches. I don't know if you can see that. And so I ran over this section right here, and man, did it clean up really, really well. So it's got me thinking maybe I could wet sand on this thing a little bit and flatten some. It's got a ton of orange peel in it. I don't know if the camera picks that up, but it does. And so I don't know how much clears on it. So what I may do is in a later video, if I even get to that, guys, maybe try to wet sand it a little bit and buff on it just to see what happens. But today, that's not what we're focusing on. I just wanted to show you guys that little section. I also did a little piece right here. But let's go get, I want to say it's 7/8 to get the calipers and the brackets off. That's all we need off to accomplish this. And then we will break them down. I've got new parts, like the new hardware kit, new slide bushings, I believe. We're going to do all that, obviously, after we paint. But we need to get these things scuffed up, and I want to show you what I'm going to be painting them with. It is indeed 7/8. However, I'm going to pick the wrong ratchet. No, maybe not. I didn't think I got them that tight, but maybe I did. Once you get them loose, I don't have any Loctite on them, so they should come out by hand. They are. All right, so like I said, guys, I'm gonna be taking these all apart as one, and they actually still have the old rubber brake lines on them, which is good. I think that'll help, for one, kind of close up around the area where the fluid's gonna come out, because, I mean, these are used. But the other thing it's gonna do is it's gonna keep me from getting paint in areas that I don't necessarily need paint. But, okay, these guys are fighting me. Let me get these off, and we'll show you what we're working with. This is what I was taking out. That holds the bracket to the aftermarket Corvette bracket that we put in a few videos ago, or the last video on this thing, I suppose. So now you can see what we've got. We've got the stock caliper and the bracket. But my plan here, guys, is to paint, since this car has silver here, I thought it'd be kind of nice if these were silver. Now, they are kind of silver now, but I want it a little nicer than what I've got. You guys kind of know my goal here, and I know I didn't do it on the dually fender, somebody called that out, but the goal here is to leave things better than what I found it, okay? And so what I plan to do here is we need to get the bracket loose, because I'm going to paint it black. I'm going to paint this silver. I think that'll look nice. It'll be a nice little contrast, but we need to get these guys out. I believe they're 12 millimeter. A lot of times, guys, you need something here in the center so they don't spin. So let's go grab that, see if we can get these things apart. These are actually 15 millimeter. I thought they were different than that, but got that one out. I think this one was spinning. Well, maybe not. A lot of times that intersection spins, so you see I got a pair of channel locks there. Or if you get it fast enough, that doesn't happen. Okay, now we have two separate pieces. One we're gonna paint silver, one we're gonna be painting black. So, here's what we need to do. I've got all new hardware, and when I say hardware, guys, this is this junky stuff that they put in these things. try to replace that anytime you can. I need to go make sure that I've got new grease slides, but for now I am gonna leave these old ones in. But you need to make sure and check, see if this one's not seated all the way. It's supposed to be like that. But check and make sure these don't have any cracks in them and that they slide freely. If this doesn't work, which we're gonna re-grease these at the end before it goes back together, but if those don't work, your brakes aren't gonna work right. They're not gonna return like they're supposed to. And then we have one more piece of hardware that pops out of the center there. And we are ready to kind of scuff and clean. I'm probably gonna go ahead and push this. Actually, let me just go get a pad, an extra pad that I have, and my clamps. We're gonna push that piston back so we can go ahead and push any fluid that may be in there out, and we're ready for it to be loaded and put back together when it's time. And actually, I don't even think I need a pad for this because the inner is open. We'll just open this up, come in here, put one end in, and then I just kind of tighten it as I go, and it'll compress that piston in as far as it needs to go. On GM stuff, it's kind of nice because they compress. Unlike your foreign stuff, a lot of times, guys, they have to screw in, and I have a cheap tool that I bought at a local parts store for that, and it sucks. There's way better tools for that. You can also see why I don't necessarily want to do this once they're painted. I think they're in all the way. They sure seem like it. So to clean these, it's going to be pretty simple, or I say it is. I'm going to use my foot to hold them. I'm going to use the wire brush. Okay, I'm going to do that both on these, and I won't bore you guys with like a time lapse on that. Cleans it up pretty quick. I'm going to use it both on this, and I may end up clamping it in something, I don't know. But this brush should get a majority of what I want off. Same thing on the caliper, I think. And I have another attachment that may even do better than this. So that's kind of my plan on both of these, and I'll do that all off camera. Like I said, I have one that's more of like a throwing star look. And so I may switch to those to do some of the more intricate areas. Then once I do that, I'm gonna clean it off with some brake clean. I'm gonna go over it one more time with a Scotch-Brite, and then we will show you what we're gonna be painting it with. Now after, I don't know guys, maybe 10 minutes of going over these things, they look 1,000 times better. But like I said, we're gonna go over them with the Scotch-Brite to try to get in areas I couldn't get with that. Just to double up, let's kind of scuff up the areas that we couldn't get. And then once we go over them with the Scotch-Brite, I'm going to spray them off with some brake clean and kind of let them set aside. And I may wipe them down with mineral spirits like right before I start to paint. And really, you know, focus on the areas that are going to be forward facing. Look, if the paint peels off the backside, which I don't think it will because it's pretty strong stuff, and we've got a pretty good bite right now, at least a nice surface it looks like. But yeah, focus on this area right here where you're going to see it the most. And let's spray it off with some brake clean here. And this one I'm going to call done. It's ready to paint anyway. Let me wipe it off a little bit, spray it one more time, and then like I said, I may just wipe it down with some alcohol before we start the painting process. But what I do want to make sure of is that all this stuff is dry and out of the little cracks and crevices before we start painting, because when we start painting, if anything runs out or is not quite dry, it is not going to stick to that. So just know that. And the kits that you get, like you guys have seen me use G2 caliper paint in the past on this channel. And while I do like that, I like the way it applies. It seems like a really well-made product. it has a hardener in it. And so you have a 4-hour or 6-hour work time, maybe it's 8 hours. But look, I don't want to be up against a time clock. So I'm gonna get these cleaned off and I'm gonna go grab the paint that we're gonna be using on this and show you exactly what we're gonna be dealing with. I am using POR caliper paint. Guys, look, I've used this before and it works really well. I like the way it lays down. It lays down very similar to like the POR 15 we used on like the rear end and whatnot. So I figured, and it doesn't have an activator, right? So it doesn't like, you can reuse it. This is stuff that I used years ago. And so I'm using just a small brush, and I did apparently a really terrible job last time I closed this because it's like POR 15, the frame coating or the rust preventative, man, does it lock a lid on a container. So I wiped these down with a little bit of alcohol off camera before I started here. And so now what we're planning on doing is just going over this. Now you're probably wondering, well, what about the spot where your hand's at? I've got my screw jacks set up behind me to hold kind of the last end of this, I guess you would say, when I get to that point. So look, there's gonna probably be a few brush strokes in this because we are applying it with the brush. You can put this in a gun and spray it if you want, but you guys know I don't like to have that mess. And so this is the way I'm gonna apply it. So it'll take me a little bit to get the first coat on, but once I get the first coat on, I will kind of cut in and show you guys what it looks like. And it's kind of one of those things when the brush is new, it takes a little while to get the bristles coated, but man, does it stick. It seems to stick well, it lasts, and it's easy to apply. And look, if you brush it on like what I'm doing, you don't make a huge mess in your shop, right? That's a plus too. So let me get this thing coated. I will cut back in and show you guys what it looks like after the first coat. I don't know, we'll probably need a second coat. I think I will be out of brushes. This brush will be all dried up by the time I get to that. But that's what we're using on these. Now we're gonna use they make different colors now. POR 15 started releasing different colors, and we're actually gonna be using their silver as well on the actual calipers themselves. So when I get to that point, I will turn the camera back on as well and show you guys kind of what it looks like going on. I've never used it before. I've only used the black. Or I take that back. I think I may have used the red one time. Here's after one coat on the caliper brackets. So they look pretty good, guys. I'm not gonna lie. I think I'll put a second coat on them though. But let's go ahead, go grab the silver, and let's see what it looks like going on to the actual calipers. Well, here's what I'll tell you about the silver. It took a lot more stirring than the black. It looks like it's got like metallics in it or something, but we may not even be able to tell where we're going because it's very, very close to the color of the caliper. Now, here's what I'll show you. I mean, I'll tell you, I'm using a way bigger brush on this, if you notice. I'm just kind of using the brushes I have. But guys, on these, if you'll notice when you get a set of powder coated calipers, they generally don't powder coat in this area, so I'm not gonna paint there either. And mainly because, for one, it's gonna be completely worn off like after 2 or 3 pad passes. And I just don't see the point in painting it, you know, because of that. And you'll notice, like I said, when you get a pair of powder coated calipers, they are generally not coated there. So we're going to put a coat on these and see what it looks like. You know, one thing I noticed about this POR 15 stuff is it seems to be pretty decent at leveling. So even though I'm gonna have a little bit of a brush stroke in it, it seems to adhere really well. And then it seems to level out pretty well. So it doesn't show, it's not like house paint, so it's pretty thin, which makes it level out a little bit better than, you know, what you're normally gonna see from brushing something on. Look how level that looks. And like I said, we may not notice a huge difference because this thing's technically pretty close to that color, actually. I'm kind of surprised at how close it is. After one coat, this is what we've got, and I think this is my new favorite to paint. This stuff went on super, super nice. I don't know if it's the bigger brush or what, but I dig it, guys. I think I'm gonna put 2 coats. So this is just the first coat. I'm gonna go ahead, coat the second time, and then we will be ready to reassemble. We now have the second coat on these things, and guys, they are looking really, really good. Like I said, I really like that silver. Almost looks factory. Definitely looks better. But at this point, I'm gonna let them dry overnight, and then we're gonna come out here. I'm gonna probably go ahead and run down a couple lug nuts to kind of center that up. But then it is time for assembly. Sorry guys, it's a little cold, so you're gonna have to deal with my heater. But we're ready to put these guys back on now that they're all painted up. And look, I want to put our new boots on. So these are our old boots. We're gonna take those off, try to wipe some of this old grease off. And then we've got our new boots here, they come with it. Anytime you order brake pads, generally they should come with this. They don't always, but every power stop set I've ever got has. I'm starting to get a little excited because we're getting really close. You want to push these on, then try to pull them down, make sure they fit, and they do. Put them back in place. And then, guys, I'm going to use a little caliper grease here to grease these things back up. I thought it was open. And put them back into place. Now, once I do this, we're gonna go ahead and snap the hardware in there too, which I think is on the other side of the car. Push this down until it goes over that lip, just like that. We need to do the exact same thing the other side. But anyway, we need to put the hardware in after that, and this one may be stuck because of paint. But once we get the hardware in, I'm gonna go ahead, and that just snaps in. You should get new hardware with it as well. If you didn't, then you need to call them because they didn't send you everything. They always send new hardware. At least PowerStop. And I'm not sponsored by PowerStop. It's always worked well for me. So if you guys are curious, like, why does this guy push PowerStop so well? Well, because I like the fact that their rotors are zinc washed and they continue to look nice even well after you've been driving the car for a long time, or if it sets. That's why I like it. I've never had any problems with any of the holes cracking. You know, sometimes people are worried about the holes in the rotors, saying, oh, they'll crack over time. Well, look, guys, I've had a set on several vehicles for a long time. The green truck back here has them. The Trans Am has them. Of course, I know the Trans Am doesn't get any action, but it's had them for, I mean, I've had them on cars with like 50,000 miles. I've never had any cracking. But anyway, let's go get the hardware, snap it in. I already put the one in the caliper. That guy snaps in there, but then there's 2 that snap in the side, and then I'm going to get it mounted to the car. Now that we got this thing mounted on there, before I put the pads in, guys, I like to put grease where the pads ride, and of course I got a little bit on the dadgum rotor. This keeps them from moving freely. I'm using a Q-tip because the brush in that thing's ridiculously big. I'll roll that around and clean that off on the rotor. See, I got a big chunk on the rotor. All right, now we can put the pads in, and the other thing I'm gonna do is before we put the caliper in place right there, I'm gonna put some on the inside of the caliper. I'll show you that in just a second. Now, a couple of things here. So you can see I put grease on that and on the inside here. That just keeps them from rattling around. But I'm ready to put that up into place. One other thing I wanna show you though is I got the pads in. The indicator, so the wear indicator on the Corvettes go in the back. So your pads, there's 2 separate pads. There's 4 pads total. 2 of them are gonna have wear indicators. You can see that up in the top corner there. See that guy? A little loop. That's to let you know, hey dummy, your brakes are bad. So we've got that in the back. That's where that goes. Now we need to swing the caliper up in place and get our bolts over there started. Now that we've got that in place, I went ahead and tightened these down. These need to be torqued to around 37. If you can't get a torque wrench in here, guys, just get it nice and snug. You're gonna have to hold this inner from spinning. It's gonna wanna spin. I just use a pair of channel locks there to get that to keep from spinning. The other thing is I didn't tell you is 84 foot-pounds is the caliper bracket. I guess I didn't talk about that. So I got that torqued down. So now what we're gonna do is I'm gonna take the stock, I think that's a 15 or a 14, maybe it's a 13 millimeter. We're gonna get that out and hook the new brake line up with our new bolt, and we should be rocking and rolling. Now I'm using the new bolt that was supplied with the lines because they're not quite as thick, so we want to make sure that they seal up properly, and that actually fits into this caliper. So guys, what we're going to do, I've got a new crush washer on the inside and outside that came with the kit also. We're going to cinch this down to 30 foot-pounds, and then all we have to do is start. I'm going to go ahead and hook up our third brake, or the brake line, the flex line that goes up to the hard line that comes from the front. I'm going to re-torque I think 15 foot-pounds on the front of the drive shaft here, and then we really need to get the suspension loaded before we tighten like any of the shocks or the bushings, like the other stuff back here, like the leaf springs and whatnot. We really need the suspension loaded to do that. I've got the drive shaft torqued down, like I said, 15 foot-pounds. Guys, I completely forgot, but we got to put diff fluid in this thing. I'm just using 80/90. This is an open differential, guys. We don't need any additive or anything, but there's it's actually a 3/8 drive here on the side that we need to take out in order to get our fluid in. And generally how I fill this is I fill it until I can just get my pinky in there and touch the fluid, okay? It generally takes, I got 2 quarts. It shouldn't take more than that. It generally takes, I think it's 1.7 fills it. So I guess we'll see if our gasket works back here and if we get any leaks, or if we have a pinion seal leak. We didn't before. I don't know why we would in the pinion, but you know, we did replace this gasket back here. You never know. Well, I pushed the golf cart forward. Cohen helped me bleed the brakes. So now we got to figure out what we're going to do about the wheel situation, right? So we know that the factory wheels, the 15s, will not fit over those brakes. So I've got an idea. We'll have to see here in just a second if that works. I'm going to test it and make sure, but guys, this thing is ready. The brakes bled ridiculously good. Cohen said it had a really good pedal, and it didn't have before. So I think, my guess, like you guys could see the brakes when we first started this process, how bad they were. I don't think they were actually hitting. I don't know if like maybe one or both of the lines were collapsed. I don't know if the caliper wasn't working. I don't know what was going on, but it works now. And so we've just got to figure out a wheel to get this thing back on the ground. And then I am excited to finally get this thing going down the road. So hopefully you guys see it in this video. Just got to figure out the wheels. So here's what I decided to do. We nabbed the 55 20x10s and put on the back of this thing. So the 55 looks like garbage. We got everybody out here. Cam, Kai, Dana, Cohen. They're all out here, but look how trashy the 55 looks now with those wheels on. I actually had to take the rear calipers off to put those wheels on. They'll clear the disc, they just won't clear the caliper. So we're good here. I got under there and tightened everything up. Now look, I don't know the torque specs on this, and since we're using different components, I went 50 foot-pounds on the U-bolts. I went 30 foot-pounds on the rear hangers. Guys, there's just not much to them, and it's a pretty small leaf pack. And then I went 40 on the front. Seems good, okay? I just put the shocks down until the bushing started to kind of mushroom out. So we're set. Now I don't have the front wheels on. I mean, we've got the stockers on there, but we're gonna set it down. We tested the brakes last night. Cohen helped me bleed them, and he said the pedal felt pretty strong. So at this point, we're gonna yank the jack stands out, take the jack out, set it on the ground, and maybe it goes, I don't know. Well, as you can see, it's out. It's maiden voyage, and it rubs. Look, the 20x10 is a fat wheel to put under that car for stock wheelhouses. I noticed the transition, like when I turned the corner up here, that it rubbed pretty good. So look, I've got a couple different options here. We can, you know, try to cut off the pieces that are rubbing, which I really don't want to do, or we can just go with the little smaller wheel. I got, you know, guys, on the last one I did an 8.5, a 20 by an 8.5 in the back, which is really kind of what that car needs. You could probably do a 9-inch, but your tire would have to be pretty small. So maybe that's what we do. But look, it does brake now and stop, which is cool, and didn't do that before, and it's not hitting anything. So hey, it's a win, right? But hopefully you guys are enjoying the content on the 54. I know it's not everybody's favorite on the channel. Maybe the new favorite would be Kai and the puppy. Kai, can you talk for the camera? Dada. Say dada. Say dada. 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 Okay. Anyway, guys, if you are enjoying the content on the 54, any of the other trucks in the shop, go down in the comments and let me know about it. Of course, like always, hit that thumbs up button. If you guys are not subscribed, go down, hit that subscribe button. Of course, like always, ring the bell notification. That notifies you every single time we drop a new video. And Cam, what's next? Subscribe. I already said that. What do they need to stay tuned for? To see what we do next. See what we do next.